engulfing this high-rise apartment building in London full of families. Flames shooting out everywhere, tearing through dozens of floors. People trapped inside using bed sheets as ropes to escape. This man desperately waiting for help. More than 50 people injured, hundreds of firefighters battling the blaze. We are live on the scene with the latest.
Massive new lawsuit. Nearly 200 Democrats now suing President Trump over his business dealings with foreign governments. This is his defiant Attorney General gets grilled on Capitol Hill.
An appalling and detestable lie.
Jeff Sessions faces tough questions about his meetings with the Russians, the firing of James Comey, and what he refused to say about his conversations with President Trump.
Overnight, the American college student held captive in North Korea for more than a year, finally home with his family, but mysteriously in a coma. Landing in Ohio hours ago, carried off the plane, rushed to the hospital. The secret talks that led to his release and his family's message this morning.
If you feel you're sinking, I will jump.
In a dramatic rescue caught on camera, two women struggling in a dangerous rip current when a hero NYPD officer and nearby surfers jump in to save them.
I said everything's going to be all right. Just hold on to the board. We got you.
The warning as you head to the beach.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
Good morning, America. There is a lot going on this Wednesday morning, starting with that horrific scene in London. There it is right there, that London high-rise active search and rescue operation right now.
Horrific and scary scene at that, George. Deadly fire erupted as hundreds of people were sleeping inside. Witnesses say they saw people dangling from the windows and families were trying to escape.
I know, when you watch these scenes like this, so hard, and the smoke is stretching for miles. Officials calling this an unprecedented incident. ABC's James Longman has been on the scene for us all night. Good morning, James.
Good morning, Robin. I'm about 150 yards away from the building, and as you can see, it's still smouldering. Pockets of fire still ablaze after 11 hours, and there's concern this morning about the stability of that building. We understand so far 6 fatalities have been confirmed, but that number is likely to rise, and there are still a number of elderly and children missing. This has been a catastrophic fire. Balls of fire bursting from the windows.
Something crazy is happening.
Panicked calls for help from inside. And frantic acts to break away. Residents seen dropping down makeshift ropes fastened from bed sheets, desperately attempting to escape.
Yo! This guy's sending a rope! Don't do it! Don't do it!
More than 200 firefighters battling the raging inferno in this apartment building at least 24 floors high.
We have now taken over 50 patients to hospitals across London.
Countless residents trapped inside the high-rise in the heart of London throughout the night.
We could hear people screaming, "Help me, help me."
One partially blind elderly man trapped on the 11th floor, cameras capturing him terrified as he waits for help, and others still missing.
Your brother is still trapped.
I don't know where he is. I don't know. My family have gone round to the hospitals.
40 fire trucks and hundreds of firefighters struggle to take down the blaze, but the building is so tall, much of the fire is impossible to contain.
Can you please move back, everybody?
Firefighters pushing bystanders back from the scene. From here, you can see debris falling off the building, and they've moved the police cordon right back because there are real fears that it may collapse. A thick black smoke towering high and far throughout the city.
People were still sleeping on the higher floors, so they didn't have a clue what was going on. I'm not even sure if half of them got out.
There's been no mention of terrorism as the cause of this so far, but no one really knows what started this fire. But a number of issues around the safety of this building going back years, so a lot of question for the investigation going forward. Robin?
Yeah, people want answers, James. And boy, London has been through so much recently.
They have been hit hard. Yeah. Also overnight, the American college student Otto Warmbier, held captive in North Korea since last January, returned home to the U.S. After diplomats learned he's been in a coma for more than a year. He's now being treated at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. ABC's Lindsay Janis is there. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning, George. We are still waiting on word from Warmbier's family and from doctors here who have been evaluating him overnight. What we know is that his parents found out a week ago that their son has been in a coma for 15 months. How he ended up in that state is a mystery.
Overnight, the medevac flight carrying American college student Otto Warmbier landing in Ohio. The 22-year-old in a coma and in urgent need of medical care after being held prisoner in North Korea for nearly 18 months. Members of his family briefly boarding the plane, hugging each other and crying after seeing him. Warmbier carried off the plane by hand, an ambulance taking him to the hospital. A State Department official saying they're aware of reports Warmbier contracted botulism, but could not confirm what had caused his medical condition. Warmbier's release coming after secret talks between U.S. and North Korean officials last month in Oslo. Then, according to the State Department, North Korea revealing his condition to them last week.
President's direction, the Department of State has secured the release of Otto Warmbier.
Warmbier was on a tour of North Korea in January 2016 when he was arrested after being caught on surveillance video, allegedly trying to steal a political banner from a hotel in Pyongyang. The regime parading him before cameras. Warmbier breaking down as he begged for leniency.
I have made the worst mistake of my life, but please, act to save me. Please, think of my family.
Instead, he was sentenced to 15 years hard labor in a North Korean prison. His parents saying they learned just a week ago that their son had been in a coma since shortly after his televised sentencing in March of last year. And in a bizarre twist, the news of their son's release coming the same day as Dennis Rodman's arrival in North Korea.
They're trying to open the door.
Now, Warmbier's family has issued a statement saying, "We want the world to know how we and our son have been brutalized and terrorized by the pariah regime in North Korea." Robin, the family is expected to give a news conference updating on us on his condition by tomorrow morning.
You'll hear anxious to hear what they have to say. Lindsay, thank you. And Warmbier's release and the news of his condition coming at a time of heightened tensions, as you know, with North Korea. So let's go to our chief global affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz. And Martha, with his release, many are wondering how the U.S. will respond, given that there are still other Americans being detained there.
There are, Robin. Like all of us, U.S. officials are outraged by the treatment of this young man, and there is growing concern about the 3 others still imprisoned. 2 of them were taken just in the last couple of months. Tony Kim and Kim Hak-song, Americans, both teaching at Pyongyang University. The 3rd prisoner there for nearly 2 years is Kim Dong-chul, a businessman sentenced to 10 years of hard labor. And we do know from detainees who have been released in the past that prisoners are badly mistreated with stark conditions, constant interrogations, and the U.S. will continue, Robin, to press for their release more urgently now than ever.
Absolutely. And as Lindsay mentioned, we know that Dennis Rodman is back there in North Korea. There's no reason to believe that there's any relationship between his visit and Warmbier's release. But did American authorities even realize that Rodman was making this trip again?
They knew he was there, but right as Otto Warmbier was being flown out in a coma, Rodman was arriving and later seen watching a North Korean women's basketball game and saying he was promoting peace. U.S. officials are making clear he was not on an official visit. A bizarre coincidence, to be sure, but perhaps Rodman was invited to North Korea because Kim Jong-un wanted to distract attention from the treatment of Otto Warmbier, but that will remain a major issue as the U.S. tries to get North Korea to halt its nuclear weapons program and free those other prisoners, Robin.
Yes, it will remain a major issue. All right, Martha, thank you.
Okay, Robin, there is more breaking news out of Washington this morning. Nearly 200 Democratic congressional leaders are filing a lawsuit against President Trump over his business dealings with foreign governments. It is the largest number of lawmakers ever to sue a president. Also this morning, Senate Republicans wrestling with their version of Obamacare repeal after a meeting with the president where he called the House bill he once praised mean and urged the senators to make it more generous. And the president celebrates his first birthday in the White House today. He's turning 71. All this comes in the wake of a grilling yesterday for Attorney General Jeff Sessions, appearing before the Senate Intelligence Committee for questions on the Russia investigation, the firing of James Comey, and his conversations with the president. Our senior justice correspondent Pierre Thomas has all the details. Good morning, Pierre.
George, good morning. Sessions came prepared to fight what he called a scurrilous attack on his reputation based on unfounded innuendo.
The Attorney General was defiant on a mission to clear his name.
The suggestion that I participated in any collusion that I was aware of any collusion with the Russian government to hurt this country, which I have served with honor for 35 years, or to undermine the integrity of our democratic process is an appalling and detestable lie.
He pushed back on whether he intentionally misled the Senate during confirmation hearings about whether he met with Russians.
Colleagues, that is false. My answer was a fair and correct response to the charge as I understood it. I was responding to this allegation that we had met, surrogates had been meeting with the Russians on a regular basis.
And did he have a third meeting with the Russian ambassador at the Mayflower Hotel in April of 2016, something he had never fully acknowledged?
I don't recall it, Senator Warner. It would have been, certainly I can assure you, nothing improper if I'd had a conversation with him, and it's conceivable that occurred. I just don't remember it.
At least one Republican scoffing at the very suggestion of Sessions as a Russian spy.
Have you ever, in any of these fantastical situations, heard of a plot line so ridiculous?
But some Democratic senators were frustrated Sessions refused to answer questions about his conversations with President Trump, especially about Russia and Comey.
I believe the American people have had it with stonewalling.
I am not stonewalling. I am following the historic policies of the Department of Justice.
And more questions about Sessions' recusal. The senator wanted to know if Sessions had done something else that worried Comey.
The question is, Mr. Comey said that there were matters with respect to the recusal that were problematic and he couldn't talk about them. What are they?
Why don't you tell me? There are none, Senator Wyden. There are none.
But Sessions did confirm that he left Comey in the room with the president alone after a February meeting that Comey later expressed concern about. Robin?
All right, Pierre, thank you. For more on Attorney General Jeff Sessions' testimony and what the Trump administration is saying, we're going to go to our senior White House correspondent, Cecilia Vega. And Cecilia, what's the reaction we're seeing from the White House? What is it?
Well, Robin, the president was traveling yesterday for most of this testimony, so he missed it. But they do say, the White House says that what he did see, he is pleased with. One question that came up during that testimony is whether the president would fire or might fire Special Counsel Robert Mueller. That, of course, came up after the president's close friends suggested that that's something that he is considering. The White House, Robin, now says that the president has no intention of doing that, but they're not exactly ruling this one out yet.
Something else they have to deal with, the president facing yet another lawsuit, this one brought on by Democrats on Capitol Hill.
Yet nearly 200 of them in this suit that they expect to file today. Now, this is believed to be the most members of Congress to ever sue a sitting president. They essentially say that he is violating the Constitution by profiting from his foreign business dealings. So far, Robin, no comment from the White House. But earlier this week, when two Democratic attorneys general filed suit against the White House said that partisan politics was behind that one.
Right. All right, Cecilia, thank you very much. George?
Okay, let's talk about this with our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams. Let's start with that lawsuit right there. So the president now facing lawsuits on three fronts, all on the same issue, from a civil rights group and businesses in New York and D.C., from those attorneys generals in Maryland and D.C., and now these members of Congress. Which one actually has the best chance of moving through the courts?
Well, I think the big question is, where is the harm? Meaning, which one of these lawsuits has the best chance of saying the people who are suing have actually been hurt as a result of this argument that the president is somehow benefiting personally from this activity. So I think that likely the answer would probably be the Maryland, D.C. Case. But look, none of these are easy. This is a whole new area of law. And this issue of sort of showing standing, which is this question of who can sue, is going to be a difficult question, I think, in any of these lawsuits.
And the real vulnerability for the president, even if these lawsuits don't go all the way or don't reach a final judgment against him, the idea that in discovery, his tax returns will be
right, because, see, the first question becomes, does a judge allow the case to move forward at all? And if the answer to that is yes, meaning, as you point out, discovery, that would allow the plaintiffs to get access to relevant information. And part of that relevant information could be his tax returns, which you've got to believe that in some of these cases, the goal here may be, we don't really think we're going to win this emoluments case, but boy, if we could get access to his tax returns, that in and of itself could be a big win for them.
Senate Intelligence Committee made it pretty clear yesterday they're not done with Attorney General Jeff Sessions. He wouldn't answer so many of those questions, saying basically, I don't want to answer, but he didn't go all the way to claim that executive privilege.
Well, Again, executive privilege is something for the president to claim. And yet the attorney general seems to be saying, I can't answer these questions because the president might invoke executive privilege at a later date. But that means there's an open question. The president either has to invoke it or not.
Dan Abrams, thanks very much. Amy's got the morning's other top stories, starting with this manhunt for 2 prisoners who escaped.
That's right. And now, George, there is a $70,000 reward being offered in the search for those 2 Georgia inmates. Authorities say Donnie Rowe and Ricky DeBose overpowered 2 guards on a prison bus. This happened near Atlanta. They grabbed the guns and then killed them. One of the men reportedly belongs to a white supremacist gang. Police are worried they will kill again. They say after stealing a car, the men were spotted 30 miles away and broke into a home to change clothes. Meanwhile, in Oklahoma overnight, authorities recaptured a murder suspect and another inmate who escaped through a jail's ventilation system. The second escape at that jail. 2 others, though, are still on the run. Well, the Pentagon is expected to announce today that President Trump has given Defense Secretary James Mattis the authority to set U.S. troop levels in Afghanistan. And Mattis is believed to be leaning toward deploying several thousand more American troops to take on the Taliban and ISIS. Congress has approved the VA reform bill. It will make it easier for the Veterans Affairs Department to fire employees and will give more protection to whistleblowers. President Trump promised to hold workers accountable after some veterans died waiting for appointments. And we have an update on a story we first told you about last month. American Airlines is now canceling that plan to reduce legroom on some of its planes. It originally planned to cut legroom for economy passengers by up to 2 inches so it could add more seats on its new 737s. But the airline says angry feedback forced it to change course. Can you imagine if people are upset about that? But anyway, it worked.
Shocking. Yeah, my knees are happy. How about that?
Thanks, Amy.
And thank you, Amy. And now we're going to go to an amazing rescue that was caught on camera. 2 beachgoers were caught in a rip current, but saved by a hero officer and surfers. ABC's Gio Benitez is on the scene at Rockaway Beach in New York. Good morning, Gio.
Michael, good morning to you. It's just incredible. The 2 sisters say they were going into the water to just wash off the sand when a powerful rip current knocked them over and just dragged them out to sea.
Panic on the shore. Watch this cell phone video showing the dramatic rescue of 2 people stuck in rip currents in danger of drowning. But a 23-year-old NYPD officer happened to be right there.
It was all good timing. I'm down here for the summer assisting with the beach detail. We have large crowds coming in this summer.
Officer Billy Loria heard screaming from the beach, stripped off his belt and gun, and jumped right into the water. When he realized it was more than 1 swimmer, Officer Loria enlisted the help of 4 nearby surfers.
I said everything's going to be all right. Just hold on to the board. We got you. Just stay calm. Everything's going to be fine.
One of the rescued now speaking out.
If I panic, I'm gonna drown. I'm gonna drown. You didn't just save my life, you saved my kid's life.
And this won't be the last rip current emergency, so experts remind us that if you get caught up in one, just don't swim directly to the shore. Swim parallel to the shore and get out of it first. Michael?
All right, thank you, Gio. Boy, happy ending to that, though. Good thing about it. And Ginger, we're going to come with you with more on the weather.
And we've seen a lot of images like this, but this is a fresh one from western Minnesota. Look at that debris. You can see that flying there in a tornado in western Minnesota. There were 12 reported tornadoes from South Dakota into Minnesota, and this is where it's going to move today. That cold front going to smash through parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes, bringing mostly damaging winds from eastern Kansas through Missouri up to Chicago. Your local weather 30 seconds away. First, though, the stormy cities brought to you by Sherwin-Williams.
Well, our heat wave ended yesterday. That said, today's still going to be plenty hot and very humid. Forecasting high of 87 today. We're back to near average for the end of the work week. And then for the weekend, all back to 90s on Father's Day. Tracking some showers and storms this afternoon from noon till 7 o'clock. We've got a chance for the evening tomorrow. And then each afternoon, including Father's Day and Monday of next week. Your summer solstice, the high of 85 next Wednesday.
Coming up, yet more trouble for Uber. A top